Things from the Idiot Box, where we explore the good, the bad, and the wacky in television. I'm Allison Lips. Today, Chris D'Angelo joins us. He is my classmate in the Rowan University Television Studies Master's Program. Is there anything else you want to add, Chris?
I mean, I don't think I mentioned it last time, but I do also work at Rowan. So I work in the alumni engagement office at Rowan, working with our alumni association. But yeah, the past couple of years, I've been part of the Masters in Television Studies program, and it's really been, yeah, great outlet, great way to get talking about something I'm passionate about, day to day. So yeah, it's awesome to be here with you.
And that's how we connected, even though we've never had a class together.
Yeah.
We were discussing the show and we both settled on Barry to discuss, which is a dark comedy that neither one of us realized, I guess, how dark it was, and maybe not the best time for a rewatch. However, I don't usually rewatch shows like this where it's serialized because you can't just drop in and drop out. This was definitely worth a rewatch. I'm 8 episodes in, so early, mid, second season. And so far, I intend to rewatch the entire thing. It helps that it's only like 13 and a half hours in total. So if you are really dedicated, you can watch this in a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if anyone's listening and they haven't watched it yet, this is a despite. And it's funny. I think when we were taught, we were trying to find common ground.
Yes.
Things that we both really enjoyed, and it after
Yes.
Conan was that first piece of common ground, which is definitely a way different vibe. And we landed on Barry, and
I think
it
it
was
depends
funny.
on what episode of Conan you watch. There's some dark stuff there.
That's true. That's
The
true.
Mr.
Uh,
Met sketch.
yes, yes. I guess it can take a dark turn. I don't think anything takes as dark of a turn as Barry can take. But
I think
it
Mr.
was
Met
interesting.
trying to kill him, like commit suicide, is pretty dark.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess the fact that it's Mr. Met softens the blow a little bit. Um, but it
Depends on how you feel about Mr. Met. I'm sorry, I keep
oh,
derailing
that's
my own
true.
podcast.
I'm speaking like a Philly. Maybe I'm tipping my hand that I'm a Phillies fan. But it is. I think it was
My family's
interesting.
from New York, so
Oh, okay, so here we go. Then
yeah.
Mr. Met is a more sacred mascot
I mean, it's
in your
also the
circles.
Met, so not really.
But the interesting thing I thought was, I mean,
Mm,
and it's a show I remember when Barry was on, really enjoying watching it, and I think
yes.
Barry falls in like a window of, um, I don't know, it was I guess towards the end of some of my like appointment Sunday night HBO viewing.
Hmm.
I think that there's still shows that mix in, but I think with the increase of things, maybe even going right to Max, the there isn't always something on Sunday nights. Like I feel like Barry started, and I think the lead in was Veep, which is an incredible lead in. I think it also aired around the end of Game of Thrones as well. So
Okay, I
thinking
thought
of
Barry was a HBO Max original. It aired
oh
on
no,
HBO at one
yeah,
point.
yeah, Barry aired on
Okay.
HBO. So it was like your week to week, and I think it lends itself to the week to week viewing, and yeah, I really enjoyed it in real time, and then going back and kind of watching as the series progresses. Um, I think it's a great example of like what you can get on Sunday nights on HBO. Though
Right.
you get the humor, you get the violence. Like there is kind of some of everything rolled into this half hour dark comedy.
Was there
So
nudity? I know there was swearing, so it
that's
had
actually maybe the one. This might be one of the rare HBO series that didn't have. I
so it
didn't, and
does so it does not pass the Chemicast test.
no, no, it did not. I guess it did not. I had a little bit of a different approach. I didn't think I was going to get all 13 hours worth in. So I got through the first 4 episodes of season one. and then I jumped to the finale, and then I basically tried to do like the first two and last two of each, and I peppered in either some episodes or scenes that I just remember standing out to, kind of
Yes.
cement just how why I liked the show as much as I did. And yeah, it was fun to really fun to revisit, if not always super uplifting.
Right, and you were right, it did air on HBO from March 25th, 2018 to May 28th, 2023. I watched it on HBO Max. I binge watched the first 3 seasons and then had to wait a month until the last one came out. I
Okay.
remember the final one coming out on HBO Max all at once,
Okay.
or maybe 2 episodes
R-
at a time. It was something where I was able to watch a lot of it at one time, and that is why I didn't realize it was originally on HBO.
Yeah, it was some appointment viewing in my house, and um it's funny. It was an interesting show too, to kind of watch with other people and kind of see how they felt the, maybe more bleak that it got over time. Um,
Very
and I
bleak.
think the other thing that I really liked about it, and I think that which was nice about it. So for anyone listening that get starts a rewatch or is watching for the first time, Bill Hader was really spent a lot of time talking about the show while it was airing. So he did
Yes.
a lot of podcasting, a lot of interviews, some one-off interviews, and then he also did, I think, throughout season 3 and season 4, he did episode by episode breakdowns with on the Ringer podcast network with Sean Fennessy, and that was really interesting because he was Sean Fennessy. He hosts the Big Pick movie
Okay.
podcast, and he came at it from like a filmmaking perspective. And it's interesting hearing Bill Hader talk about the development of the show as a proclaimed cinephile. A lot of the influences are less TV related and more film related, and it sounds
Yes.
like Alec Berg really balanced him out as far as lending that television expertise as well. So I think it's also just a really cool example of two unique kind of creative minds and perspectives coming together and developing a series that feels wholly original when sometimes things can feel like a copy and paste of something else you've seen before.
I have 2 thoughts with that because we were mentioning how Barry starts off like, okay, I mean, he's a hitman who's suffering from PTSD. This isn't going to be a happy comedy, but then it gets really dark with everyone's lives being shattered at the end, except for Fuchs, and which in terms of going from like I'm not happy, like fairly like even where you're not like, oh my God, what am I doing? Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was similar in tone, where it started in one place and ended in another place where you're like, "Oh, did not see this coming, and now I need to call my therapist."
And can you I didn't watch that series, but did that go from more pure comedy to something more like introspective, or kind
Yes.
of what was?
It's Rachel Bloom's creation with Amy Sherman-Palladino, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Let me double check that because that could be just wrong. Um, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Looks like
Oh,
Aline Brosh McKenna.
Aline Brosh McKenna. I knew there were 3 names involved. Uh, I was talking about Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is probably why the other name came first. Yeah, Aline Brosh McKenna, and it starts with Rebecca Bunch moving from New York to her hometown of West Covina, California, because of a boy she had a crush on in summer camp. And throughout this 4 seasons, her mental illness comes to the forefront and she becomes more and more mentally unstable and doing things that are less and less acceptable. And like with Barry, like there were hints that this person is not the best in the best place.
Yeah, and I think there might have been a version of this series where it's about like it is a redemption story. You know, there's a version where the hitman finds love and finds a way to make every, you know, comes out okay in the end. And I guess, you know, without going into
I
complete
mean, isn't that
spoilers, it
Dexter at some level?
yeah, I guess you do. You have that person who's done terrible things but is able to find, you know, find redemption. And I think fascinating about Barry is you have a lot of people making bad choices for you know, variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Typically, I think a common theme is there's a lot of selfish reasons, not just from Barry, but most of the supporting you know, the supporting cast is also very selfish in their own ways and unable
I
to
don't think
maybe,
there's
you
one
know,
character in the show that's not selfish because the acting class, there has to be something in you in order to think you're going to make it as an actor. And this isn't like an improv class where it's like, yes, and we're going to make everyone look good by looking better. It's definitely a competition trying to get those gigs. Sally keeps talking about how amazing like her career is going and it's not. It's just better than everyone else's.
you have to be a little delusional to want to be an actor, an actress, and think you can, you know, make it make it in the way that they aspire to. And I think you have to be a little delusional to think that you could pivot from a life of crime and killing people to just a clean slate, you know, which is what Barry seems to, for most of the series, really think he's possible to find that redemption, which is again like fast, super fascinating to watch. I think one of the things that stood out while watching it, and I think a rewatch is like, I don't know about your experience with Bill Hader pre Barry, but mine is SNL and
Yeah,
supporting
Stefan.
roles you know, in comedies. You know, he's one of the police officers in Superbad. He's, you know, done some voiceover work, but I never saw. I think Skeleton Twins is a movie with him and Kristen Wiig where he does a little bit more of a dramatic turn. Um, other than that, I didn't see him do anything close to this. So
Right now.
it was really um, just a cool showcase of like what he's capable of doing.
I hadn't
Yeah,
seen Henry Winkler do anything like this, and then he shows up as Henry Cousineau, and you forget he is the Fonz.
yeah. No, that Gene Cousineau character is one of the is true. Like that's a heartbreaking, you know, arc that they give him, but the way he, you know, whether it's the relationship with his estranged son or then that kind of quasi father son relationship that he seems to genuinely kind of develop with Barry, and then
Yeah.
uh, is then, you know, one of the more. This was I was trying to think of like scenes that stood out. Um, but
Or
one of the things
Janet
I remember,
Moss when
well,
Barry murders her.
yeah, I mean that turn, and I think that does what the show did a really great job of,
I
and was
don't know
interesting.
how it
Oh,
took
yeah,
3 seasons for people to figure that out.
yeah. Well, I mean, they were good at the, you know, whether it's here's the pin that NoHo Hank gave to throw the police, you know, they were good at
Yeah.
throwing everyone off the scent, but I thought it was a
Mm,
great use of, and I forget his first name, but Janet Moss's dad, that character, to be
yeah.
able to come in and like be the competent detective, the competent police officer to you know, bring it all, you know, help bring it all together.
Yeah.
But they did every season. I felt like you got a really great cliffhanger, and as the audience, you were like, how's he
Yeah.
gonna get away with this? How are they gonna? figure that out. And I think the interesting thing in listening to Bill Hader talk about it is they ended all those seasons with no like without much of an idea
Right,
how they were gonna do it. And to their
right.
credit, I think they found really compelling ways to move the story forward and get four really strong seasons of television.
And our initial viewing experiences were completely different because it was appointment viewing for you, whereas
Yeah,
I didn't have to wait to see the next season because it's just like, okay, I go from season 1, episode 8 to season 2, episode 1. The only one that I had to wait for was between season 3 and 4, which a month doesn't really count because I could have been watching anything during that month
yeah,
if
yeah.
it's streaming.
Yeah, I had a similar viewing experience. Well, maybe not that many, but two seasons of Breaking Bad where I got to
Yeah.
binge two seasons and then catch up. And it is interesting, some of those shows when you catch up towards the end. Um, yeah, the viewing experience makes a difference in how you're, perceiving the show and taking it in. Because I felt like this was one of those last Sunday night, half hour shows on HBO where I was really like waiting to see
Yeah.
what's coming next and how are they gonna figure this out.
And the interesting thing is we've gotten so accustomed to binge watching things that we get frustrated when the streaming services try to drop one episode a week rather than just here is 8 episodes of the show. This is the entire season. And I don't think we're as drawn to like cable shows or even network shows where it's like one episode a week because we have a back catalog of not every show in existence, but enough of them that unless you're looking for a specific show, you're not really missing
Yeah, you do
much.
have something at all times that you can just binge through and commit to. But I mean, I'm curious what you think. Like, do you miss that though in any way? Like, is there a part of you that wishes you had more time to like spend kind of thinking about the show in between, or like kind of like week to week? Because I feel like there's some shows where oh, maybe it's we're very like we're close in age. Like I think there was a period of time where you had like the
Yeah.
water cooler shows. You
Yes.
you watch Lost, and everyone talked about what happened on Lost or whatever that big show was. And I feel like a lot of that it's hard to find a show that everyone's talking about at the same time or for any extended period of time
Right.
because of what you described.
Right. And I come from a TV background. I also have a marketing background and am interested in consumer culture. So the idea of a monoculture where we had the water cooler talk, everyone was watching Friends or everyone was watching The Cosby Show or Mary Tyler Moore or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire,
Yeah,
depending on
yeah,
the decade, no longer exists. I now tell you what I'm watching and you should check this out. You tell me what I should check out. And we may watch it immediately or it may go on the watch list of things that I'm never going to watch. Like, let's be honest. It's like those tabs and those bookmarks. It was
yeah.
really important in the moment, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, "What was that again? Why is this here?"
Yeah, so I wonder. I mean, there has been some interesting things, and actually, HBO, with some of their Max series, have still embraced what works, and HBO still does have their Sunday night, Last of Us and other
Yeah.
week to week series.
Yeah, like
Um,
Hacks is released that way, The Sex Lives of College Girls was released that way. I'm sure there are others where they do 2 initially and then 1 each week until they finish.
I thought in the past year, and I hope they do more of it. I thought the Pit was a really good, like the closest they came to like a full 22 episode season order. I think the first season of the Pit was 18 episodes, and they did them
Yeah.
week to week, and it was nice. You're like, oh, I have this show. This show is a part of my life for 3 months, 4 months or whatever that
I
is.
haven't seen it, but it helps that Noah Wiley is in it, and everyone knows him from ER, and it's a hospital show, and a lot of people, while it's not a continuation, it's sort of like, okay, it's close enough
And it
where
sounds like the behind the scenes and the, some there's been like reporting about it, but I think originally there was thoughts of potentially doing an ER spinoff, and for various reasons that couldn't happen, and it did turn into the Pit. But yeah, you have a recognizable face from one of the most popular medical dramas, and then you drop them in another emergency room. Um, and yeah, it was I that's a show I one of my favorite shows of the year. But I thought a good example of like what I'd like to see a little bit more of from streaming services, as far as here's somewhere between your typical network TV order and
mhm,
maybe like an 8 episode season.
yeah.
So it was a good kind of middle ground there.
Yeah, I don't really know what the answer is because I miss being able to talk to people about things and also just having that common experience like binds us together and allows us to connect with each other more, which we don't have anymore because everyone is in their bubbles, whether that's culturally, politically, regardless
Yep.
regardless, it's the feedback loop, the hive mind, everything joining together where we're not getting other perspectives. And when I was in college, I graduated in 2013. It was the tail end of when everyone was watching everything at the same time because we had streaming, but streaming was still kind of new. We were college students, so nothing was appointment television because no one's in their dorm room at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. We have
Yeah.
classes, but it was a situation where, okay, you just finished watching the first season of Breaking Bad. There's another season come out. Watch it, then you'll be caught up for the second season. And Breaking Bad is one of those shows that by the end of the run, more people were watching it. Same thing with Game of Thrones because it picked up steam. And Game of Thrones is also a weird case where piracy actually helped its ratings.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's a
think
whole different story.
no, that's true. And that is, I think those are two good examples of some of the last like really great, kind of shows that were in the monoculture.
Right,
Um,
and Big Bang Theory also, not so much because it was a great show, but every channel was rerunning it 100 different times. So by the time that the final season aired, people who weren't there from the beginning had seen enough of it where it's like,
yeah.
okay, well, I'm invested even though I half watch it with one eye open while I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, no, it'll be interesting to see how, where streaming services, kind of what they prioritize and how viewing habits continue to evolve. But again, I do have a question for you about Barry, because I was thinking about it myself, and I was
Okay.
like, while I was going through it, again, I was trying to kind of note the things that stood out. Like, were there any? I know we talked about Hader the first time, kind of seeing him in anything dramatic.
Yes. And then
Any
Cosmo.
other performances really stand out to you, even like going back and rewatching the first season?
Anthony Carrigan. NoHo Hank.
Yeah,
That was amazing, and then by the time like, that character arc with, oh, the,
Cristobal.
Cristobal,
Yeah.
where when you're watching it the first time, you don't see that coming.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I did I know I couldn't I don't think saw Anthony Carrigan in anything
you know,
before this, but he was one of those, and I think that's what like you look for in a great series, is like an actor you didn't hear of, creating a
Yeah.
character that you like want to see more of. And I think NoHo Hank could have been the type of character that maybe would have been in a season of a show like Barry, could have been part of a drug cartel for a few
Yeah.
episodes, and then they could have moved on. And the fact that he was such a consistent presence throughout.
He was weirdly Barry's friend.
Yeah, and like Barry had, Fuchs was in his corner through his life, but again, we talk about selfish reasons. I think he saw Barry as a means to an end, or a way to support him.
Right,
And then
and
yeah,
Fuchs was just manipulating Barry, and Barry was trapped. He was eventually wising up to it, but when you are a professional hitman, you can't just become an actor and then try to become a somewhat famous actor without people putting two and two together.
yeah, and I thought the NoHo Hank side of it was someone who, kind of gave him like um kept giving him a chance to like, be a friend, and extend kind of like an unconditional kind of like love and support to
Right.
him. So even as they ebb and flow throughout the season, like that friendship, even though it's tested, and I lost count of the number of times that then they were going to potentially kill each other, but there was still um that friendship throughout, along
Well,
with then the NoHo Hanks relationship with Cristobal. I think made him a character that you really, to me, I was like, oh, this is one of the people I'm actually rooting for in this. It is Hank.
yes, and if it wasn't for Hank, Barry would have been dead by the end of the first season, and we wouldn't have a show. Barry was really like he's really good at being a hitman, but he's not great in terms of dealing with a gang because it was never about working with gangs before. Fuchs got them involved in something that Barry didn't expect, and I'm also wondering what their share of the money is
What
because
the Fuchs Barry agreement is,
yeah,
or what that percentage? Yeah,
right, because Fuchs controls the money, but Barry's the one who's doing most of the work.
yeah. Probably not enough, not enough for the one literally getting his hands dirty. Um,
Yeah.
I I thought um I thought the Anthony Carrigan, and then I thought Sarah Goldberg. I never saw her in anything before this either. So the
Yeah, I
Sally
hadn't.
character, I just thought they were both like, again, oh wow, I never saw this person before. And I'm sure whenever I see it, like, and I've seen NoHo Hank pop up in things, and you think of, like, you're only going to think, or you see Anthony Carrigan pop up in things, you're probably only going to think of NoHo Hank for a
Well,
while.
he usually plays villains.
Yeah, right now he's in Twisted Metal on Peacock, and I
Okay.
believe he's in like a villain kind of role there. But I think Sarah Goldberg, and they
Mhm.
all they all did this to some extent, but I felt like it's not easy to act like, to be a bad actor as like part of
Right.
your character is being like, uh Hader. I think when he finds out that Ryan Madsen, or is that Ryan
Yeah.
Madison, or but when
Yes.
the fellow student is killed, and Gene announces it to the class, everyone has like an actual surprise reaction, and like Barry has to act. So much of the first season, I feel like, is Barry having to put on an act and really uncommit. Like, as the audience, you're like, how's this guy even getting by? Because he
Yeah.
cannot, like, he can't even fake it a lot of the times.
No, and in the first episode, he confesses to Gene, but Gene thinks he's
Yeah, then that's
doing a
that
bit, even
yeah,
though Barry admits, like, yeah, I just was like, it's not from anything. I was just talking.
yeah. So they do give, they let him say things, walk things back in a way that, like, of course, you want to be able to keep everything going. But that was something that stood out. It's like, man, these are a lot of really good bad performances, what the stuff in the acting class, when the class, it's really
Right.
enjoyed that side of it.
Yes. And it was basically just like, and Gene Cousineau isn't a great actor either. He can't even get a job for like when he auditions.
Oh yeah,
And
and it sounds and his acting, it sounds like his bad acting is his second worst feature, in that he's a terrible person to work with. I
mhm,
think later in the series they dig into the fact that he's blacklisted by a bunch of, there's a bunch of people that don't want to work with him. Um,
right.
so he and ultimately I think that character couldn't get out of his own way throughout the entire series, whether it's dealing with Barry, dealing with
Yeah.
his son, and like I think the ending, before that they flash forward, Gene ends up being kind of in the losing end of that too, because I don't think he's going to have a happy ending at the end of the series.
Isn't Fuchs the only one with a somewhat happy ending because he just walks away?
Well, Fuchs walks away. You don't know what happens to Fuchs, and then Sally and her son,
John,
her and Barry's, yeah, and John are seemingly, you know
somewhat
past, they're
normal.
getting past everything with Barry, and that's an interesting thing too. Is like, seeing, I don't know how you felt about, if you want to talk about the finale a little bit, but that flash
Yeah.
forward at the end of the finale, I thought, I think it was
With
like a little divisive, maybe. I don't know, people, I remember reading about it a little bit. I think that season and how bleak it got was maybe what led people this way.
right,
But
it was a comedy and then it was not a comedy so
yeah,
much, kind of
the
like The
laughs
Bear
dried
is,
up.
but The Bear was never really a comedy, whereas Barry was always a dark comedy.
I think the jokes to violent and just kind of bleakness ratio was a little more proportionate in the early seasons. And then yeah, that last season, even from season 3 on, I feel like, when Hank and Cristobal are Hank's, in a cell while Cristobal is being tortured, and you got uh everything with Gene and Barrett. It's not a feel good show, but
Right.
I felt like it was an interesting choice to then, show that movie version of like Barry's story, and I think kind of putting a lens up to how we, kind of tell these stories, um, and how we view, I think there's no shortage of true crime on TV and
No.
in our podcast. So I liked that we got to see it all and then see someone's version of it and kind of watch the son try to, navigate that, with his friend, and I thought that was really not how I would have thought the series would have ended, or the note they would have kind of wanted to go out on, but I thought it was a really
Right,
interesting
because Barry got away
twist.
with it for a bit until he didn't.
Yeah, and then he almost seems, at least it's implied in that film, the movie within the movie, that he kind of is painted as a hero, a hero, or maybe at worst misunderstood, but he doesn't seem to be like the villain of that movie that he's watching. And even earlier in that season, you have John asking Sally, and trying to understand him, and like seemingly wanting to paint that picture, John wanting to paint the picture of his dad as a hero, and I think Sally being, you know, uh
Well, she's
not
not
willing.
going
Yeah,
to be like,
yeah, she
you're
wasn't
dead.
willing to. Well, no, I felt like she wasn't trying to cover up for him in those conversations. Like, no, he might have done bad things in, combat as part, that might have been one thing, but he also
Right,
did very bad things beyond that as well. She didn't seem to try to, uh, you know, kind of shelter him from that. So
right,
yeah,
but she's not going to outright say to an 8-year-old, "Your dad is a serial killer."
yes, no, I think that's where her line was.
Took a blind tab.
Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I mean, were there uh, in like wrapping my head around the series, I was thinking a little like just looking a little bit about I mentioned like Bill Hader
Mhm.
and Alec Berg like worked together on this. So did you realize how much Alec Berg, how familiar you might have been with Alec Berg going into this? Because I know he was a writer on Seinfeld and Late Night with Conan O'Brien before he worked on Curb and ultimately Silicon Valley. So I didn't realize he had that early kind of Seinfeld and late night pedigree.
Yeah, I didn't either. I actually didn't look him up recently. Let me take a look at
He has an interesting, yeah, interesting career trajectory, especially the comedies
okay.
that he was a part
He's
of.
also older than I thought he would be. Yeah, so Seinfeld, he wrote 13 episodes. I mean, it's Wikipedia, but it says he only wrote for like 13 episodes of Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Um, Silicon Valley, it says he did 7. Um,
Yeah,
he
and well,
produced Euro Trip.
and he wrote it. He also wrote Euro Trip. We got
He
Euro
wrote
Trip. We also have
oh, yeah. Well,
the Cat in a Hat, or Mike Myers classic.
yeah,
But
I
no,
mean, there's some interesting. I mean, you can't everything can't be a winner.
no, I think it again, it seems like a good marriage between the two as far as like the comic sensibilities.
Yeah.
I did listen to Bill Hader talk a little bit about how this even came to be, and he mentioned that um, he had an initial meeting with HBO, and they wanted to know like if he was interested in doing anything, and they
Yeah.
actually connected him with Alec Berg. So like yeah, Outberg was already involved, I guess, through Silicon Valley and
Yeah.
Curve, where so they help make that connection. And then it sounds like one of his other writers, I think Liz Sarnoff is her name, but she was someone who worked on Deadwood on HBO. So like I feel like um, they did a good job of putting the right group of people together to kind of like really create this tone. And one of the
Yeah,
things I liked,
it's not even a show you can attempt to copy. It's not like there's a bunch of like cheap knockoffs of Barry.
no, no,
Like you
um,
just can't do that if the formula is not exactly right.
yeah, and I liked listening to him talk about it because it seemed like their mind. And yeah, I mentioned a little bit they'd end a season and basically
Mhm.
approach it like, all right, now we got to write ourselves out of this. Like they knew they wanted to get to this point, but they didn't really know
Yeah.
what was coming next. And I like, hearing writer rooms, kind of talk about, solving those problems, those challenges. Um,
Yeah.
but I thought, yeah, it was just interesting hearing Bill Hader talk about it from someone who never made a TV show to be like, yeah, I had to realize that each episode needed a beginning, middle, and end. Like that was something
Yes.
and I'm like, oh yeah, like, and that mindset seemed to make him um very open to change and like actor feedback, writer editor feedback. One thing I
Mhm.
thought was interesting in like at least when he was talking about the last two seasons was there was a lot of time in editing the series where he was like, oh, you know what,
Mhm.
didn't feel right to me. The actor even maybe in the moment expressed something not feeling right. One good
Yeah.
example is he talks about a moment between Hank and Sally
Yeah.
in season 4 because they don't interact with each other before that. And he
No.
basically tried to force in like a moment, like a sentimental moment between
Two characters who
Sally
don't know
and
each
Hank,
other.
who don't know each other. And he was like, I selfishly kind of wanted that for like the way, I guess the connection he had to the characters and everything. And he was like, Sarah Goldberg in the moment, like she kind of questioned it. And then when they were editing it, I think the editor said something. They realized, yeah, we got to reshoot this, and he was like, yeah. And then when I called Anthony Carrigan, he was like, oh, thank God that didn't make like. And it was just interesting to hear him approach creating the show from that type of kind of, yeah, let's the best idea kind of wins, and let's kind of take that communal feedback, even if it means
Mhm.
reshooting or changing something. So
Right,
yeah.
and I don't like when HBO does this because I feel it should be a different video. But at the end of each episode of Barry, they have up behind the scenes. It's easy to miss it because the go to next episode button
Oh yeah.
pops up as soon as the credits start rolling. But if you fast forward through the credits, you'll get to it, and then you get some insight into why that episode was the way it was, which I find those fascinating and I like hearing what's going on. I just wish HBO got their act together because they're like, stay tuned after the show. And it's like, okay, but
I actually have, and it's not that everyone's watching it in real time, but for the shows that then are also airing on, on Sunday night or whatever it might be, it's doubly frustrating because they also might make you have to watch what's coming next week
mm,
to be able to get to that. And I don't know if you're like me, a lot like a show like Barry, I don't even want to know what's coming next. I'd rather go in blind.
no,
See,
yeah.
I got a lot of notes for HBO when it comes to that bonus content after. But I agree. It's awesome that I think it's great. People that love TV like us, I think it's great to have that there. Yeah.
So yeah, HBO, call us or email us. Greetings from the idiot box at gmail.com is a real email address. So
Yeah, we'll help you solve these problems.
yeah, there
That's
you go. And you talked about performances, and I completely forgot about this because I love him, but he's so good at what he does. Stephen Root,
yeah.
which he is the red stapler guy in Office Space. He's Jimmy James from News Radio, and he's Monroe Fuchs from Barry, as well as a myriad of other shows and movies. And he never plays the same character twice.
I was going to say he can disappear into a character better than most. I mean, you mentioned Milton and Office Space. That's a great example where you might not even realize. I think it wasn't until, I mean, this like just places me in as an elder millennial, but like I remember seeing that and then like seeing the movie Dodgeball like 3 or 4 times and it being like multiple viewings until I realized he was also one of the guys on the dodgeball team. Um, or the average Joes. But yeah, he shows up in so many things and he can like just disappear into a role. And I thought he was such a good, just slimy, yeah, just really I don't know how else do you describe Fuchs, but yeah, he's a yeah, great performance.
He's manipulative. Yeah, and I really if you enjoy Stephen Root's performances, I believe there was it might have been whatever CBS's morning news show was called at the time. They sat down with Stephen Root and he was talking about how he gets into character and he finds a quirk in their accent. And that's how he builds the character around that. And you can see that with Milton, you can see that with Jimmy James if you watch a lot of news radio
Yeah.
because they talk completely differently. And Monroe is I mean, Monroe just couldn't talk like either one of those characters because both of those characters are so ridiculous, and Monroe Fuchs is terrifying.
Well, I think it's interesting that you said like that's how he taps into his characters because I'm just doing a quick scroll through a massive IMDb, but I mean, there's a lot of voiceover work that he
Yeah,
does as
he's a
well.
voiceover actor too.
voice actor. So yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think casting, even like the smaller roles, like she doesn't get a ton of screen time, but Darcy Caden, she plays Natalie. Um,
Yes, and as I was rewatching, I'm like, "That's Janet from The Good
Janet,
Place."
exactly. I love when Janet pops up in things. She's a real highlight of the Good Place. Um, but yeah, even like the folks that just pop into those smaller supporting roles. I know like I thought they used Vanessa Bayer from SNL really well. She was the streaming, I forgot what the name of the streaming platform is, but she was like the executive there, and she would
Oh,
like
yeah.
basically give the feedback with like noises and expressions like, oh yeah, they're looking for a little bit of but you're bringing more so like that type of thing. And I'm like, oh, that's like a perfect use of an SNL person into this weird Hollywood world. And it feels like a very inside Hollywood kind of joke, but also very accessible to, I think, like whether, anyone
Oh,
watching it.
network notes. There used to be, and I might still exist, a Twitter account where it's all these network accounts where it's like, "I know this is a comedy, but this joke is too funny." It's like,
Love it.
"What?"
Yeah, everyone can kind of relate to some version of someone who maybe shouldn't be giving a note, giving the bad or incomprehensible note. But yeah, so I thought the series did a great job of rounding out like just a great cast and great performances, and made the Hollywood like with they didn't use, I don't think anything is like an actual production company or network or anything like that. So everything is
No.
like a fictional version, but it feels like a real, especially at the season where Sally's, working on her own show,
Yeah,
all,
about
all that.
growing up in
Yeah,
Joplin.
yeah, the Joplin show. Um, One thing that also stood out to me, and I mentioned like Bill Hader coming at this from a real cinephile
Yeah.
mindset. It was interesting hearing him like a lot. I mean, I think in his those interviews, he mentioned the King of Comedy, Taxi Driver. So obviously a lot of Martin Scorsese influences.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
but I thought, I mean, there are moments during the season or during the series where like, I don't know, my jaw was just kind of on the floor just watching like, oh, they just did a motorcycle highway chase, like that one motorcycle highway chase that like culminates in a shootout on top of a car dealership. Oh, it's like 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it is. And I just remember like getting to the end of it and having to rewind and go back and watch that. Um, the whole Ronnie and Lily episode where he attempts to kill the jujitsu
Yes.
guy. Like I don't remember, like that's something out of a horror, like it felt like something out of a horror movie. Um yeah, it was just yeah, so unique in a lot of ways. Just kind of leaning into that. All right, we're gonna make this feel different and cinematic again a way that you don't always get in
Yeah,
your half hour dark comedies.
there's nothing I can compare it to. Like, I can compare it to things in tone, I can compare it to things in plot, but I can't be like, "This show is exactly like Barry."
Yeah, it makes me excited to see what series, or if he makes another series. I think Bill Hader's actually making a movie right now. I'm blanking on what the subject matter is, but I'm almost certain it's not a laugh out loud comedy. So it'll be interesting to see like what's next
Yeah,
for
there's
him.
a lot of comedians who are making dramatic movies these days. Because Conan made his debut in It's Something About Legs.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that trail, they just released the trailer for
yeah,
that.
they
Yeah,
did. Where you're like, "Oh, this is
he
really
he plays a,
weird."
a like a psychiatrist.
Yes, yeah, what is it actually called? Conan O'Brien. If I had legs, I'd kick you.
Yeah, there it is. And
Um,
yeah, not definitely not a comedy based on the trailer.
no, not at all, where that's gonna be interesting because I've never seen him in anything that's not a comedy, and he's usually playing some version of himself, and in here, he's not.
Yeah, well, I will say Conan, I like that he's embracing. I'll always go on a Conan tangent, but I like that he's embracing some act like a little more acting.
Mhm.
I don't know if you watched the Please Don't Destroy movie. The guys that's like the guys that do the digital shorts.
Yeah,
Well, they don't
no.
call them digital shorts, but they do those for SNL now. Um,
Yeah.
well, he plays one of their dads in the movie, and it's a comedy, and it's fantastic. It's great seeing him just lean into to being in a comedy and being silly as like an yeah as an actor.
He played
Um,
Andy Warhol in the Weird Al movie.
oh, did he? I didn't. I should have seen. I should have watched that. I haven't watched that. I will add that to a watch list and actually watch it.
It's overrated. I had to watch it in multiple sittings because it just seemed like it was too much of a meta joke to be
Okay.
fully like for me to fully appreciate. I'm sure if you're a huge Weird Al fan, you'll be like, "This is brilliant." But for me, I'm like, "Okay, Daniel Radcliffe is Weird Al. They got a bunch of celebrities to play other celebrities in a party scene. Okay,
Fair enough. Well, I might
that's
just have to seek out the Conan of it all. And I will say the Please Don't Destroy, that movie is called the Treasure of Foggy Mountain. And even if you just watch the first, I think 10 to 15 minutes, that's where you get, I think, the bulk of Conan. So you don't even have to watch the full movie to get
okay.
your fill. And I looked, Bill Hader's next project. He's going to direct a movie about the Jonestown mass suicide. Uh, the, so that's going to be a really bleak one. That's yeah, that's the incident that makes the whole drinking, where drinking the Kool-Aid came from. Oh, this was
Yep.
actually mentioned in the studio. This was what Martin Scorsese wanted to direct in the season of the studio. So anyway,
So,
going to be a real laugh riot
oh
from Hader
yes,
for this one.
the Kool-Aid Man just shows up.
Maybe they get that in there. Um, but yeah, I think the series. Um, yeah, I hope we get something else like this from him sometime. Yeah, sometime soon.
Yeah. I hope we get another series from him. That would be pretty good. Like that would be interesting because would it be in the Barry vein or would it be something completely different and more of a traditional sitcom? Whether I don't think he would do like a traditional three-camera sitcom, but something like The Office, I could see.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious where he goes next. But again, I feel like if you asked anyone before Barry came out, if Bill Hader would be one of like
Yeah.
one of the showrunners and creators you're most looking forward to following, I don't think that would have been the case. So it's pretty awesome that he was able to kind of
Yeah,
carve this out.
especially when people leave Saturday Night Live. You get the one or two people who are superstars like Tina Fey or Mike Myers, and then you get people where you're like, "Who?"
Yeah, I mean, and I think
Or you're
I
like
love
Chris Parnell shows up
yeah,
as a
or you're
background
someone that's
character,
able to be a supporting character in seemingly every comedy out there. But
right?
yeah, I think this
June
is like
to
it's
sitcom walk-on roles.
yeah, and it's nice to see someone leave a show like SNL and like find something that takes the things. It sounds like he took all the things he's really a lot of the things he's really interested in and turn that into a wholly unique thing. So yeah, everyone go watch Barry.
Yes, definitely go watch Barry. I don't really have much else on Barry. It's 24 episodes long. It's a story arc that takes you on some wild rides. In hindsight, at least for me, I'm like, there's really only one way for it to end. The the fast forward and the movie and all that stuff, that wasn't expected, but no one was going to get a truly happy ending. The best they could hope for is not completely ruined life. But even Sa- Sally, she is forced to be a drama teacher afterwards. And I was reading something, but I didn't wasn't able to confirm it because it was right before the podcast, where Stephen Root was like, yeah, Fuchs would definitely at the end when he's just walking away, he would find the next Barry and just work with him better this time.
Yeah, and that when they were, I guess when they had their like first initial fallout, and or when Barry like said he was done early on, he went and tried to find someone else that could
Right.
replace
Starting
Barry.
now.
Yeah, yeah. So um, yeah, I think the ending and then being able to I think they close. I mean, is it the first episode, second episode?
Yeah.
Kusuno introduces his gun, and I believe that's the gun that's used to he fails to use it earlier in the series.
Yeah.
But then I think ultimately he's able to use that. So I think they plant a lot of seeds, and they that was I think one
They
thing.
talk about it also where they planted those seeds and some of them were unintentional, where they're like,
Yeah,
oh wait, we did that
we did
earlier, we
that.
can
Yeah,
use
and I
that. And it's like,
well, that's a good
yeah,
example too of them being like, yeah, you know what? And we're also watching the show and seeing how this all plays out, and let's work with what we have instead of not trying to create another thing or another problem to solve, which I thought, yeah, made it made it so good.
yeah. So go watch Barry. um we I mean, there were a lot of spoilers in this episode, but I
Yeah.
think it's hard to talk about Barry without
Well,
talking
Barry's not
about
a
the
brand
nitty
new,
gritty.
yeah, it's
That
not a
is
brand new
true.
show either. So maybe in the description you can just put a big old spoiler warning, since we didn't do it up top. But I think there's still a lot, even if listen to this, I think there's still a lot to enjoy. And from season to season, I think the journey is a wild enough ride that you're gonna enjoy it.
Right. It's also, they've actually done research where if you know what's going to happen, you may enjoy something a little more.
That's an interesting theory. Like maybe you're not building up expectations that are unattainable, which is often why people don't like the end of a
Right.
series or the end of a story. Is in their mind they thought it was going to go one way and then can't reconcile the fact that it went another completely different way.
Right. And you may not know how you get there, but at least, like, like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what's going to happen. Anything else you want to add, Chris, before we?
No, I just I'm happy to I'm glad we could talk about it. I think the next time I think of we throw out some recommendations, I'll think of something maybe a little lighter. We'll go maybe a pure comedy.
Okay.
But yeah, but I think it's great. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it, and I'm glad had an excuse to go back and rewatch.
Yes, and thank you again, Chris, for joining me. Until next time, I'm Allison Lips. This has been Greetings from the Idiot Box. Remember, television is a medium neither rare nor well done. Bye.